more for you, you feel it. You know it. This is your life, and it's time to go from contender to champion. This is The Show with John Madsen.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, John Madsen. This is The Show. Super excited to be here today. I'm excited to announce the launch of johnmadsen.com. Head on over there. You can get on the VIP newsletter list. You can also see Athletic AF gear that can ship right to your doorstep. You can also see all the happenings about this show and the other show that I co-host with my wife, but every single thing that I do is on that website. So johnmadsen.com, head there and check it out. Now, today I want to talk about the 3 reasons why a person, or you specifically, struggle to reach a goal. And this whole show is about how to improve, how to get to the next level, how to blow up limiting beliefs and decisions, how to create a mindset of a champion, how to create behavior of a champion. Now, in doing so, I want to bring to your attention the 3 reasons why a person can keep chasing goals and never quite hit them. And we've talked about on this show how goal setting is a conscious event and goal achieving is an unconscious event. So let's uncover a little bit of that unconscious. Let's uncover a little bit of that why unconsciously we're not aligned and what we can do about it. So to not waste any time and to get right in on this show, there's 3 reasons. And the first reason is that a person doesn't believe it's possible. A person doesn't believe the goal is possible. And so therefore, the outcome that they expect is going to be short of the goal that they actually have. Take, for instance, Roger Bannister in the 4-minute mile. Up until a certain point, for years and years and years, it was thought that if a person ran sub 4 minutes in a mile, that they might die, that it's impossible, that humans just weren't capable of it. And for years and years and years, nobody could break that 4-minute mile. And the reason nobody could break it is because this belief was built into humans that they weren't capable, that it wasn't possible. So if you specifically have a goal and you don't think it's possible, then the chances of you achieving it are 0. This falls into the category of hopelessness. It's hopeless because no matter what or who or however, the goal that I have is just not possible. How would you blow that up? I mean, unless you have a crazy goal like Elon Musk or somebody who's trying to, do space travel, chances are the goal that you have is doable. Chances are that somebody's already done it. So to me, people operate out of this model all the time. They don't think it's possible. They don't think that getting to the NFL is possible. And if you don't think that it's possible, what happens is at an unconscious level, you organize events and you orchestrate behavior that's going to create obstacles, making it impossible. If you believe it's impossible, it's impossible. So the number one thing that keeps a person from hitting goals is to fall under this hopelessness umbrella where the goal isn't achievable. It's impossible. Now, if we jump to number 2, and this is more the case for more people because number 1 is really an really easy thing to fix. If somebody comes into my program and they've never been in shape before, and they think that it's impossible because they've tried 10 times, it's really easy for me to grab an example of somebody who was just like them, who was about the same weight, who was about the same height, who was about the same age, who had harder circumstances, and show them a before and after. Because right then and there, as a breakthrough coach, I can shift a person from believing in impossibility to believing in possibility. Every time I speak to kids at high school or middle school, And I share my story about how a kid never played high school football and made it to the NFL. Why do I share that story? Because I'm breaking this impossibility of greatness. I'm just a normal person. I did it. You can too. I shared a powerful talk with a group of kids. They were young. They were elementary, probably 6th graders, 5th graders, maybe some junior high kids. And I had this whole message, and I told them, and I repeated over and over again this one thing, and I'm going to repeat it to you. What's possible for one is possible for all. What's possible for John is possible for me. What's possible for one is possible for all. If it's possible for someone, it's possible for you. And you can say, well, John, we're not all 6'5", or we're not all 6'9". I can never be LeBron James. But I can point to an example of a dude named Spud Webb, for all of you who are around my age, who was 5'3" and could dunk. And call it giftedness, call it talent, call it just out of the ordinary. It doesn't matter. What's possible for one is possible for all. If I have that belief system, if I operate out of that belief system, my world opens up. You see, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. And we can take a little right-hand turn here real quick and talk about absolute truth versus relative truth. See, everybody wants to argue about truth. Is that statement true? What's possible for one is possible for all. You see, that's my worldview. That's perception. That's relative truth. That's truth to me. I accept that truth. And someone could accept the alternative of that and say, well, this and that and this, and they could argue against it. But see, that's their perception. Whose perception is going to serve them better? A person who believes that what's possible for one is possible for all? Is that going to serve me better than the person who wants to argue against it? Yes, 1,000%. So what purpose does being skeptical of that belief serve? Only to get you worse results than I get. That's it. Absolute truth would be saying the fire's hot. Fire is hot. Yes, it is hot. It's hot, and nobody can say that it's not hot. Truth is truth. Absolute truth. You see, in the world right now, we're all arguing relative truth. Truth according to us. Truth according to perception. And if we know that, if I know that, it makes no sense arguing about perceptional truth or relative truth to somebody, because changing their mind is going to be hard, right? I'm not going to argue back and forth. I don't care. But what I can do to use it to my advantage is I know that I get to choose, that I get to have my own perception. I get to believe what I want to believe. I can change my beliefs. And if I operate out of a belief system, for instance, what's possible for one is possible for all, then my world of opportunities is much larger than the person who wants to believe opposite. Doesn't matter about true or not true. Let's move on. The second reason why you or a person is not hitting their goals or not getting the outcome that they want is that they believe it's possible for somebody else, but they don't believe that they possess the skills necessary or the genetics necessary or the magnificence necessary to achieve it. What's possible for one isn't possible for them. So if number one is it's just not possible, like the 4-minute mile, until it is, or until Elon Musk does do space travel, right? Some people have, in Elon Musk's case, just this exponential belief that anything is possible. He operates with way less boundary and way more possibility. Okay. So if we move on to number 2, though, what's possible for somebody is possible for them, but I can't do it. If number 1 is hopelessness, number 2 is helplessness. Somebody can do it, but I can't do it. This is victim. This is victim. This is what I just talked about. You can argue for your limitation all you want. If you want to argue for your limitation, that's just fine. But you're choosing to argue for your limitation and to prove your limitation right rather than argue for your possibility. If you want to argue for your disease, if you want to argue for the label that maybe a doctor gave you or a teacher gave you or you gave yourself and you took meaning, then you're arguing for limitation. I'd rather argue for possibility. So this helplessness, if you don't believe that you possess the skills necessary or the talent or the work ethic or the good looks or the whatever, then you still can't hit the goal. You see, this one is where most people are, because the first one's really hard to find something, really, that somebody else hasn't already done, right? For some reason, I believed that, look, there's plenty of guys playing in the NFL. They had to come from somewhere. Plenty of people are professional athletes. They all came from a Little League Diamond or wherever, all across the United States. Why, if there's so many people that do it, like, why would it be impossible for me? It didn't make sense, right? But these kids grow up and they don't believe it's possible, okay? But maybe they're a little bit more evolved and they're like, well, it is possible. It's just not possible for me. And so this one's a little bit harder. This one's a little bit harder because when you work with a person like this, they could come into the program and I could say, well, look at so-and-so, he did it. And they'd be like, yeah, but that guy had this and he didn't have 4 kids and he only had 3. And you see how they argue with this limitation. They argue for their victimhood. And if you're going to be a person who chooses to argue for your victimhood, to argue for your limitation, then you will never hit your goals. You will never hit your goals. This is where the failure feedback loop is very, very important. You see, people in this category try stuff, they fail, and then they think they're a failure. And over time, they buy into this failure in a way that keeps them victimized and helpless. Super, super easy for me to fix when we talk about progress and every failure is simply feedback. Then every time we try something and we get a result that we don't want, we make a tiny shift and we try again and we don't get the result we want and we make a tiny shift and we don't get the result we want and we make a tiny shift. And we look back, instead of comparing ourselves to a person who's 10 years ahead of us, we look back at ourselves 10 days ago or 10 months ago or 10 years ago and we're like, damn it, I'm making progress. And you keep going and you keep going. You see, when I made it, I simply kept going. There was tons of people who had more talent than I did in the United States. There was tons of people, probably kids who were faster than me, tons of kids who had a better body than me, tons of kids who were more athletic than me. But for some reason, they didn't believe that they could do it. The failures that they had made them stuck. The failures that I undoubtedly had, not having a scholarship, having to walk on, I kept taking one step in front of the other. One more step, because progress, right? So if you're stuck in this second one and you're like, man, every time I try to do something, I know it's possible for somebody else, but I just don't feel capable. You're looking at it from the wrong angle. You're taking failure as fatal. Failure is not fatal. Failure is simply feedback. And if you do that long enough, and you have the persistence and perseverance, you're going to create the skills necessary for you to hit the goal. You're going to create the belief system necessary for you to hit the goal. But you'll never hit the goal thinking out of this helplessness spot. You got to get out of there. Now, the third way, or the third reason why people don't hit their goals, is simply that they don't feel like they're worth it. They don't feel like they deserve it. You see, this third one is super, super hard. The first one, pretty easy to fix. It's not possible. Well, find somebody else who did it. The second one, a little bit harder. We got to get out of the failure mechanism and move to the paradigm that failure is simply feedback. Move to the belief system that's what's possible for one is possible for all. Now, the third one is self-worth. I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. Because I did something in my past that I'm not proud of, I don't deserve the success. I deserve to be punished. I deserve all the suffering. I'm not worth success. You see, there is that underlying unconscious feeling of worth and not worth, where if you don't feel worthy, again, unconsciously you arrange events and behavior to sabotage success. Maybe you don't feel worthy of success, and you keep getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and then inevitably self-sabotage, it comes crumbling down. This one is where you really, really have to uncover why it is you don't feel worthy. You don't feel like you deserve it. And we can use some of the things we use in the problem number 1 and problem number 2, where we find examples of other people. That's powerful. But really, we have to get to the root of why we don't feel like we deserve it. And most people operating out of this paradigm or this worldview are always looking at the equation backwards. If I could just achieve X, then I'd be happy. If I could just make $1 million, then I'd feel worthy. The real magic here is the feeling you're chasing, the worthiness that you need, has to happen first. You're never going to achieve what you want to achieve or achieve the goal that you want to achieve until you feel the worthiness first. And this comes down to the identity level, right? This comes down to deep-rooted belief systems embedded in your subconscious. It comes down to an identity where, let's take for instance that that you don't feel worthy of a top 1% body. Well, why are some other people worthy and you're not? Everyone makes mistakes, right? If you're beating yourself up about guilt and shame and fear and doubt, those are emotions you have to remove in order to feel worthy. So I want to really implore you to take a deep dive. And if you haven't reached a goal and you keep seemingly just battling up against your boundary, where you just keep getting close and then you always fall back down, I want you to understand which one of these faulty systems you're running. Is it that you're hopeless, meaning you don't think it's possible? Is it that you're helpless? You think other people can do it, but you can't do it for whatever reason. Or is it that you don't feel like you deserve it and you don't feel worthy of it? And once you know the answer to that, you can then move, because the first step in every single breakthrough is awareness. If you're not aware of it, you see, this is where people just keep running the same pattern. They keep wondering why they don't get what they need, right? And now you're probably listening and you're like, damn, I don't feel like I deserve it. And I want to know why. John, why don't I? See, we would speak individually about that. But if you're not even aware of it yet, and you're just like, why don't I achieve my goals? I don't know. Like, why do I set a goal and don't achieve it? What is the thing? I just told you the first step is awareness. So the first step is figuring out where we fall on this continuum. Either it's not possible, or it's possible for some, but not possible for me, or I just don't feel deserving of it. Because at the root, and I'll finish with this story, at the root of this is the expectation of outcome, the expectation of what that outcome is going to be. You see, if a person believes fully that they're going to achieve this outcome, it's inevitable that they're going to achieve this outcome. Call it, mystical or whatever, but it's the truth. If the expectation is great, it's inevitable that it's going to happen. If the expectation is not great, that you can achieve it, that there's this underlying feeling that it's not possible because of one of those 3 reasons, then you're going to sabotage yourself, and it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. The power of belief is everything. There was a group of students, average intelligence, They were broken into two groups. One group was given to a teacher who was told that her group of students was fast learners, that they were above average intelligence. Keep in mind, they were just average intelligence on the scale. But a group of them was given to a teacher who was told that they were very fast learners and they were very intelligent, that they were high level. And then the other group of students was given to a teacher who was told that that teacher's students were slow learners, that they were below average intelligence. And because of this one person's belief, a teacher, this one person had a belief and believed it. After a year, the same group of students, the ones who were grouped with the teacher who believed in them, that they were fast learners and above average intelligence, this group of students tested way better. They ascended way faster than the other group of students. The other group of students who had one teacher who believed that they were slow learners performed way more poorly than the other group of students. And I hope that blows your mind. I hope you know how powerful you are as one person, because think about it. The students weren't told anything. They were not told anything. So we had two people, one teacher here, one teacher here, and their belief system orchestrated unconscious behaviors that became self-fulfilling prophecies for another group of people. The way they taught was different because of their belief system. And this is the problem with just trying to change a behavior first. You change a behavior in fitness. Hey man, like you need to change the way you eat. Let's talk about sets and reps and meal plans and you're going to be on your way. That shit doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter? Because if I don't change the belief system first, none of that shit matters. If you have a coach that doesn't believe in you, none of that shit matters. The power of belief is everything. So if you're not achieving your goals, I need you to be aware of why. And then I want you to think of that story. And I want you to uncover the belief system that you're running that's keeping you stuck.
Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode of The Show with John Madsen. The greatest compliment that you could give us is liking, loving, and sharing this episode with all of your friends. So please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and then share it online with everyone that you know. Make sure to tag John as well. He loves to hear from listeners of the show. The links for all of his socials and iTunes are in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to engage John for anything related to his coaching, consulting, or programs, please visit johnmadsen.com for everything you'd need to know on how to engage with John offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Show.